The story of Anthony Tarver, Ryan Tanner, and Lorenzo Davis began like so many stories of high school legends. On the football field, they were seniors, stars of their team, and the pride of their small town. Tony, the star quarterback with a golden arm, was the leader. Ryan, the lightning-fast wide receiver, was the heart. And Lorenzo, the powerhouse running back, was the wild card. Together, they were unstoppable, their futures as bright as the Friday night lights under which they played. But off the field, they had a secret, one that would change their lives forever. The three had been friends since middle school, bonded by their love of football and their shared dreams of greatness. By the time they reached their senior year, they were the backbone of their high school team. Tony's precision passes, Ryan's blazing speed, and Lorenzo's brute strength made them a force to be reckoned with. They led their team to victory after victory, their names becoming synonymous with success in their small town. But beneath the surface of their triumphs, there was a growing tension. Tony was the golden boy, the one everyone looked up to. Ryan was the loyal friend, always there to lighten the mood with a joke or a smile. Lorenzo, however, was harder to read. He was quiet, often keeping to himself, but when he did speak, his words carried weight. He had a chip on his shoulder, a sense that he was always in Tony's shadow, and it was beginning to wear on him. It all began as nothing more than a thrill, just another way to kill time on a quiet Saturday night. A friend of a friend had whispered about an underground poker game, a place where money changed hands as easily as cards were dealt. At first, it was harmless fun, a welcome escape from the pressures of football and the expectations of their small town. But for Tony, it quickly became something more. He had a gift, an ability to read people, to anticipate their moves before they even knew what they were going to do. Just like on the field, where he could break down a defense in seconds, at the poker table, he could see through every bluff, every nervous tick. He played the odds with a surgeon's precision, and week after week, he walked away with his pockets full of cash and his confidence swelling with every win. What had started as a game was becoming something else entirely. As for Ryan, he never could catch a break. Hand after hand, like the cards were working against him, his frustration mounting with every loss. Lorenzo was unpredictable. Some nights he won big, but more often than not, he found himself on the losing end, stubbornly chasing his losses, never knowing when to fold and walk away. The night it all went wrong began with triumph and glory. They had just won the championship game, a hard-fought battle against their biggest rival that left the crowd breathless and the town buzzing with pride. The stadium lights had barely dimmed before the celebrations began. Their teammates hoisted them onto their shoulders, the crowd chanting their names as if they were already legends. They were on top of the world. The victory was sweet, the kind of moment they dreamed about for years. After celebrating with their teammates and basking in the afterglow of their hard-earned win, the energy felt too electric to let go of. It was then that someone suggested the poker game. "Come on," Lorenzo said, a sly grin on his face. "Let's keep the night going. What's one more win?" And so, they made a fateful decision to try their luck at the poker game. It was supposed to be just another night, a way to unwind, to stretch the high of their victory a little longer. But as the hours passed and the cards were dealt, the mood shifted. What began as a casual game among friends turned into something darker. By the time the night was over, their lives would be forever changed. What started as a celebration of triumph would end in tragedy, a stark reminder that even the brightest moments can cast the darkest shadows. When the game ended, Tony was the clear winner. He leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smile on his face as he raked in his winnings. Ryan groaned, slumping in his seat. "I'm done," he said. "I can't win to save my life tonight." Lorenzo stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Let's get out of here," he said, his voice tight. The three friends walked outside and piled into Ryan's 1990 Chevy Monte Carlo, the car Ryan's father gave him for his birthday. Ryan was behind the wheel, Tony rode shotgun, and Lorenzo sat in the back. The mood was tense, the silence broken only by the hum of the engine. Ryan was still stewing over his losses, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Tony was riding shotgun, leaning back with his mind already drifting to the future. College scouts, scholarships, the bright path that seemed to stretch endlessly ahead of him. It was Lorenzo who broke the silence. "Hey Ryan," he said, his voice casual but with an edge to it. "Can you drop me off at that spot on Stacy Street? I gotta meet someone." Ryan shrugged, his eyes still on the road. "Yeah, sure." Tony glanced back at Lorenzo, a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. "Stacy Street? That's kind of out of the way, isn't it?" Lorenzo shrugged. "It's no big deal, just a quick stop." As they rolled through the quiet streets, the tension inside the car thickened with every mile. Ryan turned onto Stacy Street, a narrow, poorly lit road on the other side of town. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating an abandoned warehouse. Ryan pulled over, the engine running as he glanced into the rearview mirror. "Right here good?" he asked, his voice steady but edged with unease. Lorenzo nodded, his eyes locked on the shadows outside. "Yeah, right here." The next morning, Ryan's Monte Carlo was found just off Stacy Street, its windshield shattered by bullet holes. Ryan was slumped over the wheel, his lifeless body riddled with bullets. Tony was in the passenger seat, motionless and barely clinging to life. The news sent shockwaves through the town. No one could believe that something so terrible could happen to two young men with such bright futures. At first, the police had no leads. Tony was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, unable to speak or move. For days, he hovered between life and death, his body fighting to survive. The police waited anxiously for him to wake up, hoping he could provide some clue as to what had happened. A few days later, Tony finally opened his eyes. He was still too weak to speak, but he could blink, and that was enough. The detective sat by his bedside, asking him yes or no questions, watching his eyes for answers. "Was Lorenzo in the car with you?" Blink. "Yes." "Did Lorenzo shoot you?" Pause, then a blink. "Yes." Pieces began to fall into place. Lorenzo had been the shooter. He had lured Ryan and Tony to that spot on Stacy Street to rob and kill them, knowing it was secluded, knowing no one would hear the gunshots. He had planned it all. Lorenzo was arrested a few days later, hiding out in a rundown motel. He didn't resist. When the police questioned him, he confessed, but showed no remorse for what he had done. Lorenzo was sentenced to life in prison, but the scars he left behind would never fade. Ryan was gone, his life cut tragically short. Tony survived, but his dreams of playing college football were over. The bullet that had pierced his spine left him paralyzed, confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. His road to recovery was long and difficult. There were days when the weight of it all felt unbearable, when the anger and grief threatened to consume him. But Tony was a fighter. He had always been a fighter. He went back to school, earning his diploma with honors. He started a foundation to help other young athletes who had suffered life-altering injuries, using his story to inspire and motivate. And though he would never walk again, he refused to let his disability define him. Life had dealt Tony a terrible hand, but he was determined to play it the best he could. He often thought about Ryan, about the friendship they had shared and the future they had lost. And he thought about Lorenzo, about the choices that had led him down such a dark path. In the end, Tony knew that life wasn't about the cards you were dealt. It was about how you played them. And though his life had taken a turn he never could have imagined, he was still in the game.